Shalom, friends. Akiva Gersh here to share some updates about this ongoing war here in Israel against Hamas. Well over 100 days since October 7th, since the beginning of this latest war against Hamas. Very, very different war, as we spoke about before. This war is about eradicating Hamas from power in the Gaza Strip completely, unlike any other war that we have fought against Hamas, and we have fought many of them since Israel left the Gaza Strip territory in 2005. Just today, IDF soldiers discovered a tunnel, another tunnel. There are hundreds of miles of tunnels in the Gaza Strip that they have discovered, that they are aware of. Just today, IDF soldiers discovered another tunnel in which they believe there is evidence of 20 hostages. About 20 hostages were kept there. The deep and very big challenge with the hostages, well over 100 hostages still in the Gaza Strip, is that many of them are being kept in these deep, deep tunnels that go many, many, many meters below the ground. And obviously that creates a tremendous stumbling block, a tremendous challenge to freeing them. Hamas itself has said already for a while that the only way that they will release hostages is through a deal that calls for a complete ceasefire to this war. But because Israel has already vowed and needs to make this war be about the end of Hamas in the Gaza Strip, it's something that Israel, the leadership, the government, the IDF, just simply can't do. We are starting to hear more civilian voices here in this country. On this past week specifically, there was a protest just today in Tel Aviv to end the war, to get the hostages home. And of course, everybody in this country and all supporters of Israel around the world, everybody wants the hostages home already now, yesterday, immediately. The big question is, can we afford to do a ceasefire or not to get them home? If that is the only pliable way to get them home, can we do that? Is that safe for Israel? Is it reasonable? Many people in this country still believe it's not, that we need to continue the fight against Hamas until Hamas is no longer empowered, no longer has the power, and they no longer have the capability to do anything close to what they did on October 7th. This still continues to be a multi-front war. Even though war hasn't officially broken out between Israel and Lebanon, Israel and Hezbollah, things are heating up. And in this past week in Israel, IDF leaders have been saying that things are looking more and more likely that we will be going into a full-blown war with Lebanon, with Hezbollah. Hezbollah these days, and for many years now, they've been part of the Lebanese government. So a war with Hezbollah is a war with Lebanon. Many people in Lebanon probably don't want this war, but Hezbollah is a terrorist organization, just like Hamas, that basically has took control over southern Lebanon, and they're dragging their people and their nation into war. Also today, Syria has accused Israel of a military strike on a residential building in Damascus in Syria that killed 5 revolutionary guards of the Iranian military structure system. Israel has hit Syria hundreds of times in the past decade during Syria's long civil war, taking out leaders that are supporting Hezbollah and other forces against Israel. And while Israel rarely ever takes credit for any of these strikes, it did look like an Israeli strike, the way that it was done with precision, taking out this one building, knowing who was inside. Israel didn't take credit for it, but Iran basically accuses Israel of it and vowing revenge. Still the problem down in the south, in the Red Sea, with the Houthi rebels from Yemen, the terrorists there. There are terrorists all over this region. Continue to be a problem, complicating things for ships moving through the waters of the Red Sea, threatening, shooting ships moving through these waters. Big shipping companies from around the world have stopped using these waters, stopped sending ships there because of the danger there by the Houthis. And of course, as you probably know, the US and the UK have retaliated militarily against the Houthis in Yemen, taking out a lot of their sites and a lot of their capabilities as well. The last thing that I want to share with you, just over a week ago, was the trial that South Africa brought against Israel in The Hague, accusing Israel of genocide. And that verdict, that the answer of the court is still to come. But an absurd accusation against Israel that we are, knowingly trying to commit genocide against the Palestinian people in Gaza, which is an absurd accusation because everyone who understands the situation correctly and has been following the situation for many years, even decades, knows that Israel is one of the only, if not the only country in the world that takes so many measures to ensure as much as possible, even during a war, that the civilian population is protected and not targeted. We are fighting terrorists that embed themselves in civilian populations, in mosques and schools and neighborhoods, hospitals, as we know, and more and more evidence has come out of this war as IDF soldiers have been inside of Gaza, in these places, in these mosques, in these homes, in these neighborhoods, in these hospitals, seeing direct evidence of the way that Hamas uses civilian infrastructure and civilians themselves as a way to protect themselves, knowing or hoping that Israel will retaliate there if that's where they're shooting from, if that's where they're firing from, if that's where they're holding themselves up. But Israel, right, this is war, and unfortunately civilians do die, but still, even in war, where most other countries in this world would just, either carpet bomb or not care what the civilian casualties were, Israel does take great measures to protect civilians as much as possible. And if we didn't do that, the numbers would be way, way higher than they are right now. One of the accusations also was that we were, removing people from neighborhoods. That was also for their own good, even creating a corridor through which that they can go to a safer part of the Gaza Strip. And we know that there is evidence that Hamas terrorists were actually either preventing civilians in the Gaza Strip from using these humanitarian corridors, or even firing at them while they were. So it's an absurd accusation. We imagine that Israel will be cleared of all of these charges, and South Africa will, hopefully, in the eyes of many in the world, will be embarrassed for even bringing that absurd accusation. But we're still waiting for that answer from the court. In the meantime, continuing to pray, always praying for the safety of our soldiers in the Gaza Strip and around the country, fighting on these multiple fronts, serving with all of their hearts and with all of their might. And it's incredible to see after 100 days how much they still are fighting with all of their hearts and all of their might, protecting their people, determined and dedicated to do all they can in order to protect their land, to protect their people, and to protect this nation. And we have a lot to be proud of in them. They should be very proud of themselves. This is not an easy war. This is a war that literally, is street by street, house by house, with terrorists popping out of tunnels, out of nowhere. We know again that there are hundreds of miles of tunnels in the Gaza Strip, making this war a very, very difficult war to fight. It's not just on the surface, there's a whole nother subsurface that we're fighting against. And of course, praying for the hostages to come home soon, please God. So that's a little bit of a summary. I hope that helps. And just really, really praying for the peace and security of our soldiers again and our civilians. Please pray with me and keep Israel in your heart and in your mind. All the best and be well.